Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. It is that time of week where we have a guest joining us. Check us out. Check her out, not us, but her on the 6 o'clock Sports Center. Also check her out on Debatable. It's a new thing we got going for the folks that gave you highly questionable. You can check it out on the ESPN Facebook page, the YouTube page, the Twitter feed, running live between 12 and 12:30. Kind of depends on the day. Elle Duncan, what's going on?
What up? Good brother Bomani.
Yo, so I watched the first episode of Debatables with you and Pablo and Dominique, and I thought it was really good, but it started off, and I didn't realize that you had dreams of stardom back in the day. That you was like, because I heard you every now and then, like, you know, break into song on the ESPN properties, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see you. But I didn't realize that you, like, had you a little show, a little gig at a club.
Yeah.
You was trying to make it happen.
Oh yeah, I had a little record deal.
You had a deal?
Yeah, I had a little record deal. Well, so I had a record deal on the table, but as I explained on Debatable, it was so bad. The lawyer I had look at it. He was like, "Do you remember how bad TLC's contract was?" I was like, "Oh yeah, it's like historically bad, right? Like it's the sort of like the poster contract for like how you don't sign contracts." And he was like, "This is worse, and you're not as talented as TLC, so you won't make enough money to." He was so real with me. But yeah, I tried it out. I have a little demo. It's really embarrassing. I actually found the demo not that long ago, and I played it for O, you know, my husband. And he sort of sat there with this polite, frightened smile on his face, like, Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, so whenever someone says to me, like, you missed your calling, I'm like, I did not.
You're like, no, actually, I answered the call. I picked up the phone.
I did, and it was a fart on the other end. So no, I did not miss my calling at all. I'm a great karaoke singer, and I like, you know, messing around on SportsCenter. But it's evident that I am not a recording artist.
No, I tell you this though, you had to go for it. Like I think about it, and it's working out well. One of my good friends has a son that when he was born, you know, they did that. Well, how tall is the kid going to be? And the answer was looking like 6'10" or something in that. So you know what that meant. You go, yeah. He was like, look, man, we got to give it a try. Like, if he don't like it, he doesn't like it. If he's not good, he's not good. But we at least have to look into it, right? And they looked into it, and it's working out. Like, the little homie is also a water polo star, like all of this stuff, right? Yeah, like woo, he got it, and it worked out. But they have to try. I feel like, me, myself, personally, right? If I were a good-looking woman and could carry the littlest bit of a tune, if I could carry a single note, we go into the studio,
Yeah, you're going to give it a whirl, right?
Yeah,
Especially in Atlanta.
Yeah, I've seen outright bums out here get somewhere. Not just like kind of get somewhere. Like, imagine this. If somebody had come to you with whatever that song was, what was that woman's name? Like, she kind of the last person that I can think of that we just absolutely knew was whack at the time and had no talent, but the song was the jam, so we just rolled with it. Lumidee, remember her?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
What you wanna know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
We all knew she was whack.
Yeah.
But we all knew that was jamming, right?
Yes.
Like, you had to give yourself the opportunity for somebody to come up to you with that tape.
Yeah.
And be like, yo, this is what it is.
So here's something. And I don't know, you know, he could have just been like gassing me or whatever. But when I worked in Atlanta, and this is shortly after I gave up on having a recording career and decided to do, you know, radio and sports, I was working for the 2 Live Stews, and I sang their intro, right? So one of their listeners was this guy named B Rich, and B Rich, just this light-skinned like brother that you would expect from Atlanta, right? Always talking big, you know. And so he kept telling me, like, man, Elle, like, you got to get up in the studio. Like, I got this artist, and you know, everybody in Atlanta has an artist. Everybody has an artist. He keeps telling me this. And I know B Rich for like a year and a half at this point. He keeps telling me, like, come on, man, you got to come to the studio. I'm like, whatever, B Rich, you know, Long story short, come to find out, B Rich was actually managing an artist. That artist's name was B.O.B. And one of the songs he was interested in at the time, me coming to sort of lace, was, can you pretend that airplanes in the night sky like shooting stars? He was like, Elle, I tried, man. I was like, damn it!
You needed to be more particular.
Right.
Like he should have known enough to know that you just can't be out here on some, I got an artist. You
Right.
need to check it out. Because what this sounds like to me is you trying to holler.
Right. It's Atlanta. And like B Rich was always so cool. Like it was like Big Brother energy. But still, it's like, he was like a listener, that he was a part of the dogs and poodles, and he would come to events. And like I'm 20 years old. I wasn't gonna do that. But I was happy for B Rich. Obviously they had a really, really, really nice run. But every time I hear that song, and again, who knows if it was actually ever going to be or if that song was real. But whenever I hear the girl from Paramore, I'm like, I could see how we sing similarly. Like I could see how he would have heard a voice like mine for that song. So, but it was not meant to be. And alas, I'm here with you now, Bo. So it worked out well.
By the way, what this industry did to the Two Live Stews is criminal. And I feel the need to say that to anybody that ever has. And ain't nobody ever been as successful as they had managed to be in the time that they was there. And then everybody was like, peace.
Like, it's
like that's being black in the game right there. Like
it really
anytime
is.
somebody gets out here and starts talking about like what the deal is, you be a black sports talk host or anything else. Look what happened there.
Yeah, it was so confusing too, because it's like, again, their star was ascending so quickly, and they were on ESPN, and then they syndicated. And I think, people tried to say that like, well, that's what sort of ruined the show, is that it was very uniquely Atlanta, and then they syndicated it, and then they lost some of that. But think about how many of our Caucasian brothers and sisters syndicate, and it's like a good and positive thing that they continue to make money. They use it as a reason to sort of that. I remember, at one point when I was, in Nesson, in Boston, and like Ryan Stewart was entertaining coming there, but he was like, but I can't talk about hockey and stuff. And I was like, wow, like to think that everything that you've done, you'd be here, like potentially doing the same job that I'm doing as I'm like starting out. It just felt, Bo, if there's one question I get throughout my career more than another, it's like, what happened there? And I don't know. I don't know.
Yo, it is the wildest thing in the world to me. Because I know what it is to be a black, in radio in particular. Because I will say this, because I think they were syndicating that from like 1 to 3. Because they would come on after my show when they first got the syndication thing. And boy, let me tell you, them first couple of days, the day I put them on, them phone, what the hell is that?
What is that?
Right?
Are they barking?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah, like people, like as soon as they hear a black, it's so rare to hear a black person that's not an athlete on sports talk radio, that when it happens and people can't figure out who the person is, they just freak out. And then when they freak out, whoever the little programming director is or anything else, they freak out because they fundamentally believe that their audience is racist.
Sure.
Right? Like they believe that y'all can't handle it. And so then they get ready to bail on anything. And then next thing you know, these two dudes that had been everywhere and had done well, forget about trying to get on national. They couldn't get on in Atlanta.
Right.
As black as Atlanta is, those dudes, because you listen to sports talk in Atlanta, it don't feel that way, right?
No, yeah.
They
at all. It is not representative at all of Atlanta. And you're right. I mean, like in their heyday, the Stews, like I mentioned the dogs and poodles. For those who don't know, like imagine like a traveling caravan of fans of a show that will go literally anywhere you go. I mean, middle of the day, Stone Mountain, JR Crickets, they are there. Like wherever that show went, they would show up in droves. So it felt like they had really a huge following, and for it to your point, just sort of dissipate with like no explanation as to why. Again, like there's not some inside industry secret that I know of anyway. I don't hear people say things like, oh, they were insufferable. I worked with them for, a little over a year. They were not that way at all, so I honestly, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
I need more of you singing. That's what it came
Is that what
down
it is?
to.
You're in the doghouse.
Hey, you said
that was the intro.
Hey, you said that before. This is at Chili Pepper. I remember Chili Pepper.
You remember Chili Pepper?
I remember Chili Pepper.
It was like
Chili Pepper's
16
in Buckhead, right?
levels. Yeah, it was like, remember it was the size of it was very small, but it went straight up. So there was like 9 levels. Mm-hmm. So you would that's how you partied. You would party just looking down balconies. It was awful.
And you'd have been like the person from Atlanta that was performing, and maybe somebody knew and somebody didn't. Like I remember the first time. I don't think this may have been like one of the first times. This is my sophomore year that I went to a club, and it was a local act that I didn't feel like I knew who they were, but they were up there. But it was the Young Blood, so like I soon knew who they were later.
Okay.
With one of my favorite Atlanta club moments, Sean Paul on the mic. Hey, you ain't at a crew, get off the stage. And if you won't get off the stage, we get you off the stage. We don't need no security. That
Yo,
stage
Sean Paul.
cleared out.
Out, of course. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh, that's amazing. It's so Atlanta.
Yeah. Sean Paul, I don't know, and I guess every city and every place like has somebody like this. Sean Paul was the ultimate. Everybody in Atlanta knows somebody like dude. Like Sean Paul, like that is probably a common nickname of the 23 years ago or so era. Because in your crew, there was a dude I went to college with. He was our Sean Paul.
Yeah.
He was exactly Sean Paul.
He was Sean Paul. You know who I was thinking about the other day, Bo, who just in Atlanta, and again, I love coming on your show because we can talk about like real Atlanta things. We were talking about like the originators of the mask, and I was talking about how, we spend time in Tokyo and like they wear masks like all the time, and then I thought, who was the first person I really had a lot of contact with that wore a mask a lot? And I was like, oh, Young Dro.
Yes.
Young Dro used to always wear a mask. Like at the time, like Nelly had his Band-Aid and like whoever had their leg pulled up, and he always wore a mask to everything. And Dro would just show up at shit. It did a coat drive, like anything random from like, an Alex Gideon party to a coat drive in Decatur. He would be there with his mask on. And I just love that he's so uniquely Atlanta, and people just don't know the contributions Dro has had.
So Young Joe became like the next level Pastor Troy, where he just show up at stuff.
Oh yeah, but out with the belt.
Yeah, like never as the way somebody put it was to be when Pastor Troy showed up at something they did. Never unwanted.
Yes.
But definitely uninvited.
Yes. Yes. It's like he knew. Him and Raheem had this little niche for finding places where there would be a PA, a microphone, and a crowd. And anytime those three things happened together, it could be at a grocery store, it could be at a concert, whatever, they would find that thing happening and they would announce themselves there. And it would always be welcome, because who didn't want to listen to the most beautiful girl in the world, right? Standing in the parking lot at Greenbrier. I want to hear that. You know what I mean? So they would put on these little mini shows, and we would always look forward to that as a radio station, because it would be like unintended and unpaid entertainment.
Yeah.
We'd like hop on the radio on the phone, and those like street hits, and be like, yo, Dro's in the parking lot right now performing So High. Maybe T.I. will come. We start like calling people out. It was free entertainment. It was great.
No, I caught up with Pastor Troy at last concerts in 2014. I saw him. I think he was just in the crowd that day. He pulled me aside like, hey man, you gotta get me on that show with you and them Mexicans. And I was like, they're Cubans, but okay, And so one day I looked up on Instagram, and Troy was like at the Clevelander, or just in Miami and around. And I was like, yo, you want to stop through? Because I'm like, yo, we can get him to rap with Poppy, do No More Playing GA with Poppy. And of course, Pastor Troy shows up. And of course, the belt was with him.
There it is.
And my thing about that is maybe he check a bag. But like that's a lot of room in your carry-on. I have owned that belt before. Like you gotta configure it and you gotta wrap stuff around it. He ain't going nowhere without the belt, just in case somebody wanna see him.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, there's a couple of things that are gonna always happen with Pastor Troy. He's gonna have that belt, and he's going to tell you who his clique is. Okay, it is DSGP.
Yes. Yes.
He will tell you every time who he rides with. When I was doing those obnoxious ass Hawks videos, I used, No More Playing J in one of them, and I knew, like, as soon as I do anything somewhat Atlanta on my page, Pastor Troy is always, in the comment section, like, get him, sis. I know that no matter what, he's got my ATL back. So, of course, he hops in there like, tell him who you with. It's just so ridiculous. I mean, to see the people, some of these people I don't even remember have like, Instagrams, or that I used to love them. But I did something not that long ago. And in my comment section was like, tear the club up thugs. I was like, they have an Instagram?
Wow.
That was such a specific time.
Yes.
You have an Instagram?
Yes. Now, I will stick with Atlanta a little bit. Some of Atlanta got mad at me over the weekend.
Oh, what'd you do, Bo?
You know what I did.
Oh, okay. I know what you did.
But all I said was that Matt Ryan's arm was shot, which
I
believe is self-evident.
I was going to say, how is that controversial in any way?
Because the Matt Ryan capes exist, I understand, and like they don't understand. I love Atlanta, but they think I hate Atlanta because of my feelings about the sorry little football team. And I just don't understand how they can't understand how somebody would have these feelings about the sorry little football team, but they get so mad at me. And I just said Matt Ryan's arm is shot. I once said Matt Ryan wasn't a Hall of Famer, and that turned into a measure of controversy with the Atlanta folks.
He's not.
But No, he's not. I mean, that's okay. They'll retire his jersey. Like, that's pretty
It's
noble.
fine. Yeah, ring of fame in the Falcons, it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's great. Man, I've watched a handful of Falcons, just a little bit of time with the Falcons this year. I'm so glad I don't do that, man, because that is not going to be a positive experience for them folks this year, man.
That's what I'm trying to say, is like when you say, it's not that you love the abuser, you hate the drug, right? so I love, I'm obviously a Broncos fan, but I'm from Atlanta, so I love Falcons fans. I understand how much they want for Matt Ryan to be their guy, right? Like, it took them a long time after Mike Vick to fall in love, and they finally did, and they realized Matt Ryan farts in the bed. And that's okay, Because he's got a lot of really other great qualities. But being a great quarterback isn't one of those qualities. So we need to start thinking about the future and moving on, right? And like, so this idea that like every single year they somehow think that he's just going to like go back to what was an anomaly. That MVP year was the anomaly. Stop saying like, can he return to form? He is showing you his form. That wasn't his form. This is his form, okay? That was a one-time thing, clearly. I don't know why, and I don't know why it's so controversial to just say he is a solid quarterback. He's a top 15 quarterback who now is getting closer and closer to 40 and needs to probably be put out to pasture. Like, do you want to keep doing this until he's Ben Roethlisberger and he quite literally can't move? Like, come on.
Yeah, but that's the thing, man. People struggle to notice it when quarterbacks get old because they don't really get slow, right? Like, that's the way we tell that somebody's getting old in every sport, is that they get a little slow. But that's not what really matters with quarterbacks. And so Tom Brady got these folks fooled into thinking that anybody can play like, hey, look at Tom Brady. Maybe Aaron Rodgers can play another 7 or 8 years. I wouldn't bet on that, homie.
No, but again, you give Tom Brady the benefit of the doubt because the man has 7 effing rings. All Matt Ryan has is what? 1 MVP year and literally the most embarrassing demise in football history. Like, for you to thank you. And so for you to not even think, even when Tommy was 4 rings in, what did they do? They go and draft Jimmy Garoppolo because at the very least they were thinking about their future. Matt Schaub was your backup quarterback until 6 months ago. Like, this is nuts. I just don't understand what they're doing. I don't get it, it's not that I care. I don't care about the results of the Falcons. They're the hometown team. It'd be great if they win. I don't really care. The Broncos are who I live and die by, but it's so hard to explain the inexplicable. Like, what are you thinking? And then to get fresh blood in here and for Arthur Smith to go, no, Matt Ryan is for sure the guy. What are you looking at?
You're looking at the owner who says Matt Ryan is for sure the guy. That's what that means. That means that the boss man told you. But I forgot. Broncos, I forgot about that. Were you mad? Were you mad when Lamar went and got them couple yards like Fangio was mad?
No, come on. No. I love, though, that Harbaugh barked back and was like, I wasn't aware of a 16-point play since we only care about results. No, I was not mad at all. And that's just, Fangio to me is like, he's one of those guys that's like, you want to like him. I'm not sure he's likable. Like, I want to. I think that I like him more because reports are that he's the only one that was really from the beginning all in on Teddy Bridgewater. That sort of, the front office said, okay, like, that's going to be your guy. I don't know if Teddy is the guy, but it was evident by looking at Drew Lock. He is not. So if there was any apologies left for Drew Lock, good God, that man can't play the quarterback position at all. But yeah, when it comes to the Falcons, Bo, I don't know. Arthur Blank is such a good man. And I think, weirdly enough, that's exactly why he's a bad owner. I think he's so loyal and he's a good man. He wants to do the right thing. And that is not always the best football decision. And his loyalty is just, I got to say
this, though. I can't say he no bad owner because the Smith family owned that team before Arthur Blank. Now, that was bad owners.
Bad owners.
Yes. every whiff and taste of success that, something to be proud of outside of 1998, they go on this. But look, I went around. We talked about that other stuff. You know what I mean? You know what the people want to know about. You know what people want to hear about. Keeps offers a simple, stress-free way to keep your hair. I mean, you seen me lately. You seen this hair? You seen it, right? It's great. You could be like that too. Now, Keeps, they've got convenient virtual doctor consultations and medications delivered straight to your door every 3 months, meaning you don't have to leave your home. It's low cost. Treatments start at just $10 per month, and Keeps offers generic versions. They got discreet packaging and proven results. Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors. Prevention is key. Treatment can take 4 to 6 months to see results, so act fast. Keeps helps men keep their hair and prevent hair loss. If you're already entirely bald, Keeps is not the right solution. But if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/Bomani to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's keeps.com/Bomani to get your first month free. keeps.com/Bomani. Does this sound familiar? You got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you watch sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friends log in for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part? There's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. How your man Urban Meyer play himself so badly? Because I watched on Debatable, and you guys made the point that I was going to make, which was that story was going to go away if he didn't get up in front of the microphone.
100%.
And he got up in front of the microphones. And he also went up in front of the team and didn't do that right. And now Urban Meyer, like, what are we waiting on, man? This one is over.
It feels like it's headed that way. And it's funny because everybody sort of, keeps like talking about like the, the creepy hanging out at the bar with young women kind of thing. And I'm like, that's not the issue. The issue for me is because, yes, like while some people in the press are saying, he didn't make vows to me, that's not what this is about. This is about the idea that like he has shown a complete lack of leadership because his decision making is very poor. And the least concerning thing Urban Meyer's ever done is, have someone back that thing up at a bar. Like the most concerning thing would of course be, covering up for someone who committed domestic abuse against his wife, or hiring a racist, or hiring his homie, trying to get his homie a job despite having never played that position in life. Those are why Urban Meyer's leadership skills should be up for debate, not because he was in the bar. Like, I've actually never heard him, Bo, you're better at this than me, so you would know. I did not know it was a thing that coaches don't fly back with their team. I honestly didn't. I've never heard of that.
It never happens.
Right? I've never heard of that.
It never happens.
Yes.
That's what's getting him here. It never happens. And I was actually surprised by that part on a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
I thought maybe, given the circumstances, no, nobody does this. That's what the beat writers all jumped on. It's like, you did what?
Yeah. Because, with Thursday night games, you still typically you fly home, you go and look at film. Your off days are not until usually Saturday or Sunday. So you go to work the next day typically. And now you're 0-4, and your team needs the leadership more than ever. That was questionable to me. Like the dirty old man stuff, like it is what it is. There's plenty of those. But I don't know.
This the question that needs to be raised here. And I didn't even go dirty old man there because them clips we got was so short. I got no idea.
They really were. You take a picture. People take pictures all the time.
People were sending me that, and I was just like, I can't do this. This is just something that is only noteworthy because you've heard of the person.
Correct.
Right? It's not about the act. So I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, I'm not tripping on that. This is the question I think that Urban Meyer needs to ask himself, and that I think is actually going to demonstrate itself to be like a real question that ties to other things, which is, this is your own restaurant.
Yeah.
This is your establishment.
Mm-hmm.
How in the world did somebody film you and put out the footage in your spot? Mm-hmm. You command so little respect that even at Urban Meyer's Pint House
in Ohio State territory,
right, that you got to worry about people filming you doing that. Again, it wasn't like if he had been out there like like it was a party in the 11th grade, and
Right.
he laying on his back on the ground, and she's scrubbing the ground and him at the same time, right? Like
hold me, his friend's holding his arms.
Right. He leaned up against the wall and he doing this one right here. He's doing that right there. He start pulling your shirt up.
No.
Like you got your undershirt showing. And she he wasn't even doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like
that is so middle school.
She wasn't holding the ground. She wasn't doing none of that. And somebody was like, I got you. And they did get him. And it's only because people don't like him. That's like really what it comes. If people don't love Bill Belichick, but if that had been Bill Belichick at a bar and some girl was in front of him as such, like the other video I haven't seen people talking about, like the extended footage or whatever, but we would laugh if that was Bill Belichick just sitting there looking kind of stone-faced.
Absolutely. We'd be like, oh, look at him getting it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
People just don't like, and it's wild people don't like Urban Meyer because he hasn't, like I don't want to say he hasn't done anything to anybody because I don't like the way that feels, but I think you get where I'm coming from. Like there's some people that folks hate, and I fully understand what they put their finger on. With Meyer is just, I don't rock with that dude. Because they're not that mad about that Zach Smith stuff. Not that they shouldn't be mad, but I just don't believe they that mad about that stuff.
Well, clearly.
They just don't like him.
Yeah. Okay, let me play psychologist here. Do you think there could potentially be an element of self-destruction here on Urban's part because he sort of wants this thing to fall apart, right?
Yeah, he knows this is over, but I don't think he's trying to. I don't think that he thought that when he went to that bar and that happened, that it would be the tank out move. And I don't think, and this is what got me, is that Mike Silver did a thread on Twitter yesterday about this. Urban Meyer came to meet with the team because he became the distraction and all of this stuff. And I'll get to that, but I want to stop with something. Pat McAfee made a very interesting point on his show where he talked about he got busted for public intoxication once. It was in the news or whatever, and he walks out. He's got to come face the team. Now, he's the punter, but still, he's got to come face the team. And when he walks in, basically everybody's like, oh, here he is, like sarcastically, derisively, and all of that stuff. But that's how they treat people they respect. If they had respect for Urban Meyer, he would have walked in that locker room and they would have just all been laughing. They were like, I see you, coach.
Okay, coach.
Right. He would have apologized or whatever, but they would have been like, yo, they're tripping, whatever. But they don't like him. So he comes in, he cancels the whole team meeting. He's supposed to meet with the whole team. He canceled that, and I don't understand this for the life of me. Cancels that and decides to do this with each position group. My dude, you going to do this 7 times when you only had to do it once?
One time. Why?
And then did it today. I just saw something that apparently when the team met, he did the apology today. And they like, dog, it ain't even really that serious.
Right,
we just kind of needed you to own it.
Yes. Isn't that weird when like people do, like that's definitely happened to me in life where someone like takes something that is mildly agitating and then makes it so annoying by bringing it up time and time again that you're making it uncomfortable and weird, and now I'm having a problem.
And they thought that the way he handled it, per Mike Silver, just wasn't a way that you handle it if you worthy of respect. And so he said they laughed at him as soon as he left, and he knew it. They're laughing at you.
Behind your back.
But the thing
They're
about
all
football
gonna laugh
players,
at you.
like it's hard to get a basketball team all together because a basketball team would be out on you immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Football players want to believe in the coach. Like the relationships between football players and coaches at the median is much different. They look much more for the guidance. Nah, man, they all out on you. Everybody is out on you, and he can't quit because then he can't get his money.
Right.
Jacksonville doesn't really want to fire him. Nobody wants him there. He doesn't want to be there. And they just going to be out here losing. And Trevor Lawrence is like, oh, and you brought Trevor Lawrence into this.
Thank you. Bo, that was
That's
the
where
most
you lose the
egregious
team
part.
right there.
Yo, he pulled a rest in peace, his soul, a Kobe, right?
Yes.
Where it was like, wait a minute, Shaq was like, well, I was just minding my business, and he's like, I told Trevor that at his bachelor party. What are you talking about? What? Stop talking. What? If I'm Trevor, I'm like, how did I get hit with this shrapnel? What happened?
Right. And so Urban Meyer just bummed out. He's so clearly and visibly unhappy. He can't handle what is a regular level of losing in the NFL. Like I'm not judging him for that part. He's just not built for it.
Sure.
He takes the losses way, way, way too hard. I'm like, the bye week? Does he quit at the bye week?
When is their bye?
Let's go find this out because
see.
I know they got a. I mean, obviously they have a London trip because everybody think that's where they're gonna go. So it looks like
Oh, their
looking at
bye is
this.
after October 17th.
Yeah, yeah, because that's when they go to London.
So week 7 is their bye.
Stick around,
Ooh,
stick around, stay in London, see the
right?
sights.
Yeah. Listen, if he thinks it goes down at his little terrible bar, it definitely goes down at the pubs in London.
Oh my God, man,
Oh,
he blew it, and
way to
nobody
spoil
got
the
his back.
bag. Like, way to spoil the bag. I just don't understand. So here's my question, though, because now, of course, everyone is calling him, the next Saban. He was the laughing stock of the NFL too, and now he made everyone pay in college. Do you see that sort of future for Urban, where the college level will just sort of welcome him back? He'll go to a school, he'll get back to his winning ways, and we'll sort of move on.
No, it's over. I think it's all the way over.
Oh,
Like,
you think it's done?
I think that any school that would be willing to hire him would be beneath his standards. And I think this is an important thing to note with Saban. The Dolphins didn't want Saban to leave. The
Right.
players didn't want Saban to leave. Like, Saban's got all his problems and everything else. But the problem that Saban had was when he told them he wasn't leaving and then he did leave. Urban never has had these guys respect. Like, Saban is a much better people person, quiet as it's kept, than Urban Meyer is. And so, like, people with the Urban Meyer is going to go to USC, and I've been saying this repeatedly, USC has been too scandal-ridden, and particularly with scandals involving violence against women. They
Fair.
can't hire him. And currently, the chancellor is a woman who was I think she's president, but she was the chancellor at North Carolina before she got there. And I know enough to know if she's still there, he ain't going to be there. People are like, well, they're going to move her out. That's fine. They can't hire him. Maybe there's somebody who can hire him, right? Like LSU, they're not going to be able to hire him after they fire Ed Ogeron. And I'm almost
why?
positive they're going to fire Ed Ogeron because Ed Ogeron's got that ignoring sexual assault thing that just happened not too long ago
Sure.
that you're going to hear a lot more about as LSU loses more and we start saying why it is that Ed Ogeron is ultimately going to get fired.
Fair. It also feels like you're giving them a lot more credit, as if like we don't see people who sort of cover abuse just move and shift and all over the college landscape anyway.
I think they move and shift, but I mean, quiet as it's kept, it really is usually a move down.
Fair.
I mean,
Okay.
Urban Meyer didn't leave Ohio State because he wanted to.
Sure.
They would have fired him if they could, except the paperwork wouldn't let him do it. And then he got that one more year, and then he went out of there. Like, there is typically – so an example I give is Marv Albert, who had his situation in the late 90s. And I encourage you to look it up because it's probably far more heinous than you remember it was at the time, because at the time all we talked about was Marv wearing lady draws, when in reality Marv committed a heinous act then. Anyway, NBC wound up bringing Marv back, and then NBC lost the contract. Marv never got back on over-the-air television doing basketball again. Like, when ESPN got that contract, Marv was never the voice of the NBA. Marv had a good job doing it with Turner, and that makes it look like Marv stuck around, but Marv absolutely took a step down.
Gotcha.
And could not get back. You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so LSU, they might be able to get a guy like that in the next hire.
Gotcha. But this
they
next
can't,
one,
but
back
they
to back.
Yeah, they can't do it right now with USC, and especially with USC because that's a different fan base. Like, that's a different booster base. They can't do it right now. No, Urban might be able to get back on television and get out here and talk about this stuff, but no, I think it's a wrap for him. And by the way, you had a great run, buddy.
It sort of felt like that from the beginning. Like, I'm not sure what's left to prove or why you want to jump to the NFL. It's interesting because Omar has a really good friend, a play cousin, who played for Urban at Bowling Green. And when it was announced that he was going to Jacksonville, he was like, yo, this is not going to work. He was like, the Urban Meyer I know, his style, his approach, the way he talks to men, it didn't sit well with like college kids at times. He's like, it will not sit well with these grown men. Like, it's just, and he's like, I don't know what he has left to prove. He sort of always counted him as a very ambitious man, but he sort of did all of the things that you would assume you'd want to do. Again, despite the fact he was sort of being pushed out, he sort of got to leave gracefully, right on his own terms. He was making great money doing TV. Like, why? I guess I don't understand what all this was about, especially if this is what you were going to bring.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it was probably ego, want to be able to prove that you could do it on that level. And this was a uniquely attractive situation, right? Teams got a bunch of draft picks starting from zero, and you're getting Trevor Lawrence. I could see all the things that would lead him into doing it, except the thing is, coaching kills him. Like, it literally takes days, years off of his life doing this, but I guess this is what he does, right? Like, as much as we could tell people, like, yo, why don't you just go sit around and do nothing? Because then you're just sitting around doing nothing.
Right.
Like, this is what he wanted to try to do. Now, what I thought was, I figured that eventually he would recognize that, like, okay, so in college and the places he's been, going 8-4, bad. Mm-hmm. If you're 8-4 in the NFL, we got some excitement about how this season might end for you. And I thought that he would get an understanding of, like, hey, man, it just goes a little bit differently here. Players do it all the time, right? Trevor Lawrence has lost more games this season in the NFL, I think, than he's lost in his life.
Yeah, correct.
At
least through high school and college, yeah.
Yeah, so he just figured, yeah, okay, I thought he'd make peace with it. And when I saw the way he was sweating them preseason losses, I was like, oh no, this is over. This has no chance of being successful. I had people in my mentions yesterday that, like, you're really going to write him off after 4 games? He deserves a chance to do more. I mean, I don't really get too caught into this concept of deserve, but I'm not talking about what should or shouldn't. Like, I am now at that age. Hell, I am 41 years old. Now, I am now old enough to really be like, well, my dad would be like, nah, that ain't going to work. Why not? Hey, man, I'm just telling you, man, that ain't going to work.
I'm just telling you. Yeah, right? It's like experience. Listen, wisdom. That's what tells me it ain't going to work. Wisdom.
I seek this, right?
I have seen this before.
I seen this one before. Now, let me ask you this. You ever seen anything like Kyrie? This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Therapy doesn't mean something's going wrong with you. It means you're investing in yourself to keep your mind healthy. We get our cars tuned up to prevent bigger issues down the road. We get annual checkups and go to the gym to maintain physical wellness and prevent injury and disease. We do chores regularly, some of us, to avoid a giant mess of a house and roaches. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Unload the stressors and get some unbiased feedback. You'll be pretty surprised at what you might gain from it. See if it's for you. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and the Right Time listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/Bomani. That's BetterHelp.com/Bomani.
Oh, God. Bo, we all know the consequences, or we know someone that has suffered some consequences from hotepping, okay? And for those that are listening and don't know, hotepping is, you can Google it. Please, yeah. God, don't go to the Urban Dictionary. But hotepping is basically like where Facebook sleuths, confirmation bias. They think up these wild fantasies or conspiracy theories and then go find it somewhere deep in the annals of Facebook and confirm it. I've seen it cost people jobs and whatnot, but like not significant ones. This could cost this man $15 million in the best case scenario. That's assuming they let him be a part-time player. Worst case scenario, the max contract, $300 million in his career. What the is happening? I think, did Howard Bryant say he's a contrarian without a cause?
Yes.
God, that nailed it.
So I try to be careful when I talk about the hotep situation, because I tell people this all the time, that I look back on it. But when I was younger, like when we lived in Atlanta when I was younger, and a little bit early when we were in Houston, I definitely was surrounded by many a man that one would term hotep in this day and age. So they were really at that point really just Pan-Africanists, but
sure.
It evolves. But now, man, a lot of them cats that we find to be ridiculous are some of the most important people, I feel like, honestly, to my development in life, because I always say if you are going to raise black children, you have to raise them with a basis in African history first, because otherwise everything is just in the context of the American experience, which comes with its own problems, right? So, we learned about Africa and all, look back, some of that stuff may not have been the truest, but like part of my self-esteem comes from them cats. Sure. However, when I saw Kyrie on the media availability, when he did it on his Instagram Live, and he had an Ankh earring in, I was like, oh, that's where he is in this. And I had people being like, well, I got Ankh tattoos. What you trying to say? I didn't say nothing about your Ankh tattoo. And ladies, I'm not talking about your Ankh earrings. I'm talking about that dude with an Ankh earring. I'm assuming 2 of them because that one was in the right ear. You know what I'm saying? People typically go with the left. He had an Ankh earring in there, and I was like, oh, that's where he is in his journey. That's where he's progressed to. Oh, man. Like, look, that's another one. I'm 41 years old. I synced it. I synced it. I know it. Like, you think about that for real. You see cats with Ankh stuff all over the place. How often you see somebody go so far as to have an Ankh earring? You don't see that too much in a dude. And when you see it in a woman, she got a on and on, you know.
Yeah,
it's like keep rolling like a Rolling Stone wrap on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's how that goes.
She getting her body on.
Yeah, so I talked to somebody who's kind of around the Nets a while ago, and I was like, yo, man, so when are Durant and Harden going to get tired of this?
Right.
And his response was, man, he going to be there. You sure about that? Are you positive about that? Are you sure he's going to be there? Because now he's really willing to walk this up. Andrew Wiggins was like, nah, man.
Never mind.
He still sound like a fool, but he was like, he sound like a fool with a jab. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
These cats got to be looking at, like, you really going to try to just not play at home? So this is what it would have to be. He can't play at home. He can't practice in New York.
Right.
He would just basically have to show up on road trips.
Yes.
And they try to develop some sort of rhythm with him after they just had last season where they had no rhythm because everybody was always in and out in all of this.
Correct.
How you think you gonna trust Kyrie to just show up to not even home games, road games? He's gonna show up to road games.
Make it make sense. I don't, but I also wonder, Bo, why the Nets are taking such a supporting Kyrie sort of stance here. This is absolutely insane. I mean, it's sort of nuts. Like, why aren't they being stronger about it and being like, if we are clearly not going to sign someone as a part-time player, what the fuck are we talking about here?
Because he still has Kevin Durant, right? Like, Kevin Durant has still got his back. It's something I always remember about Durant. When I first started doing Highly Questioned, it was either the first year or the second year, we did an interview with him. And, you know, Dan.
Yeah.
Dan wants to talk to him about the story we had just heard about the first time they had met Michael Beasley. They were at some community center playing basketball, and Beasley left early or something. And after they got through playing basketball, it was supposed to be pizza. And then they come out there and there ain't no pizza because Michael Beasley has ganked them for the pizza on the way out the door. Classic Michael Beasley, right?
Yeah.
And so we're, trying to get our yucks out of Kevin Durant for that. And Kevin Durant was like, hey, man, you got to understand. Like, we just kids trying to, we still young. We just kids. We still trying to figure this out, so I think you need to cut some slack, to that. And I remember that just because, I got where he was coming from. Didn't think it really applied in this case, but I understood where he was coming from. But what I saw in that is from him a tendency to try to protect people that he feels are being picked on by everybody else. And I think he feels this is my guess. I don't know this, but like it looks like he feels that way about Kyrie. And therefore, if he's got Kyrie's back and Kyrie is the guy who put the whole thing together, then the Nets are going to ride with this to have, as long as Kevin rides with it. The question is, how long can Kevin ride for this? And I just can't see how you can ride for this for long at all. This is absurd what is being proposed.
It's nuts, especially because I think aren't their first 6 games on the road too. So I think that Kevin's gonna at least publicly support him or do whatever he needs to do until it starts affecting their bottom line, which is of course them losing. Because at the end of the day, they're competitors. Kevin Durant knows that he's half a foot size, away from potentially being in the NBA finals and whatnot, right? Like who knows what could have happened. They need those 3 guys, or at the very least, they need to prepare for a season without them. They can't keep doing this back and forth, in and out. I don't understand what Kyrie is a really good player and a really complimentary player to that big 3, but he is not generational. Like, you don't think that the Nets can still compete in the East if Kyrie Irving's not on that team? I don't understand what they're doing. I don't get it. I don't understand why they're kowtowing to this behavior. It feels like, we had a lot of this BS with the NFL too, right? Leading up to the season until the NFL said, you know what? Okay, cool. We're going to let you do your research. Here's the deal. It's going to start affecting game checks. And magically, Bo, 95% of the league was vaccinated, just like that. And I just feel like the NBA is going to have to get to a point too. they have largely been able to escape it because I think 95-96% of their league is vaccinated too. But it's the Kyrie, it's the name recognition, right? That is the big issue for them at this point. If they don't start getting a harder line stance on it, then we'll see. They're hoping that it impacting his pocketbooks is going to be enough to get him to come around, but we'll certainly see. It was enough for the NFL. I just think that Kyrie is very sophomoric and immature in many ways. And, outside of the ego and the being picked on and feeling like he's, again, to what HB said, he's a contrarian without a cause. He just wants to go against the grain. And we'll see how important that ideal is to him.
Yeah, well, he thinks that
he's smarter than everybody.
It's not just that. You know what? It's like, you remember the Kobe system commercials?
Yes.
I never knew when they aired. I was like, so Kobe, is he in on the joke here? Like, I could never tell. Kyrie is like, if it's the Kobe system stuff, except he's absolutely not in on it. And somebody needs to be Kanye West in the Kobe system commercial and just be like, what the fuck does that mean, Kobe Bryant? Right? Like, somebody needs to be that person with Kyrie. Like, at any one of these press availabilities, what he says, be like, yo, what does that mean?
What are
like,
you
no one
talking
ever
about?
responds
No.
and just be like, could you
What?
like explain that out a little bit more?
Yeah, they just ask him more questions because they want to just hear more crap. But it's like nobody has ever been like, can you please explain? Or, Kyrie, did you go? You know what I want anyone to ask any of these guys? Just a quick question. Did you attend high school, public high school, Kyrie? You did, right? Because I know that you did. Did you take your vaccines in order to go to high school, Kyrie? Your child, does your child go to school, Kyrie? If you vaccinated your children so that they can go to school, ask them this, because of course they all have. Because here's the thing, Bo. Here's the thing. When it comes down to actually having to raise your children, you would rather stab them with anything than have to actually keep them at home and homeschool them. So parents have no problem signing their kids up for any vaccine that's recommended, right? Because the prospect of never being able to send them to camps, daycares, or schools is too much. If that is too much for parents, then how Kyrie Irving just can't settle and land on the idea of taking a vaccination in conjunction with everything else he takes in his body and doesn't know anything about, is just befuddling to me, because I would be willing to bet that his child, I'm pretty sure he has a kid, right? That his child, if he attends school, has been vaccinated. So what are we doing here?
Here's what I do give him credit for. He ain't show up with no fake card. And I mean that because I feel very confident saying it's some dude showing up with fake cards.
You think so?
Right? No question.
You don't think they're doing any due diligence or not checking lot numbers?
No.
You know you can publicly search and see if people have vaccines.
Yeah. Now, I think they probably are doing that, right? But I feel like there's no way that league got 450 people and ain't nobody tried to show up with no fake card. Like somebody's tried to show up. And that's the thing I'll give both him and Wiggins. Hey, Wiggins talked his talk, but then in the end, when it came down to it, yes, he went ahead and did it, right? Yep. Okay, cool. I don't think he's making a lot of sense, but he had a point he wanted to make. He tried to make his point. Okay, there we go. Kyrie, that was thinking, I was like, he's not going to do it. We might try to get around it or whatever it is, but he could have been fraudulent about it. This is the dumbass hill he's going to die on, right?
Do you
Perhaps
think that he
literally.
Is? Yeah, do you think he's going to? I mean, do you actually think, if you were a betting man, had to make a bet right now, is Kyrie going to get the jab before the season?
No, not before.
Not before. So he's going to ride this thing out for at least a little while.
Yeah, I mean, and look, man, before the season, let's be clear. That's like 18 days or
I
something
know,
like
it starts really soon.
Yeah, I don't think that, I don't know what's going to change. And I don't know who the person is that can get through to Kyrie and be like, come on, man, what you doing? That person might exist. I just don't know who it is.
Sure.
There's nothing new to say at this point. Maybe the person is Kevin Durant, right? Like maybe the approach they took was like with Draymond Green. It became clear to me and hearing him talk about like how it went with Durant, that blow up and everything, that Draymond would have apologized except they told him to apologize. And once you tell him to apologize, he ain't going to apologize.
Of course.
And so they needed Kyrie to come to his own conclusion. But now that he hasn't, now you reach the point where somebody got to go put his ass against the wall.
But again, with his personality, does that seem like something that he would respond well to? It feels that's what all of this is about. The whole world going, come on, Kyrie, you can't be this stupid. And him being like, watch me. Yes, I can. Say I can't be this stupid. It's like, it's nuts. It's It's actually crazy. And so, yeah, you would think at some point someone's got to be like, you're kidding, right? Like, this flat earth stuff is fine. And I know you enjoy this. And I know you like doing this and stirring controversy and all of that stuff. But you have to be kidding. Like, you don't actually believe this, right? Because, like, I can't honestly believe, and I don't know Kyrie from anything, but I can't honestly believe that he cares this much about it, that he would potentially forego $300 million to just die on this hill. I don't get it.
Counterpoint. Ankh earrings.
Okay. Enough said.
Like, I feel like that's
He's
like
gone.
everything
lost
that's
him.
like, I just don't get it. Why would you
We've
do this
lost
sort of
him.
thing? Counterpoint. Ankh earrings.
Touche.
There we go. All right. That is Elle Duncan. Check her out. 6 o'clock Sports Center. Also, check her
Love
out
you
on
both.
Debatable. All ESPN streaming apparati. You can check the show out. It is very good. I really want you to check that out. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. Gabe Bassan and Dave Presley and everything behind the scenes. Thank you, gentlemen. Remember, follow The Right Time. Rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. And we'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.